Welcome to Learned in Go-Go, the podcast. Hey, this is Sydnee A. I am your host, and I am also the author of Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Go-Go, How a Preacher's Daughter Pole Danced Her Way to Finding Her True Self. And this is going to be the final episode of season 1. I can't believe it. I'm pretty sure this is episode 15. I've kind of lost track, which is pretty cool. So I was really hoping Frankie could be here with me for this season 1 wrap up, but he has his hockey things that he's committed to. So he does photography, he does videography, he plays hockey, he refs hockey. He's very, very involved, and he has a game tonight. So he was not able to join, unfortunately, but I have to give a big, big shout out to Frankie James because we met at the Camp Out for Hunger, which is a WMMR, 93.3 WMMR event. It's the biggest food drive in the country, and it takes place in November. And this past year, it's funny how things come to be because I've been dealing with insomnia and sleep issues for months. And that day I woke up and it was like 4 a.m. and I knew they started to record the show at 6 a.m. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to drive up to Philly. I'm going to go to Camp Out. I had no plans until that morning when I woke up, way earlier than I had intended to. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go up there. And I've been very into guerrilla marketing my book. So I'm like, I'm going to take it to the Camp Out because I had already sent copies to everybody on the morning show when I had first published it. And I knew they had guests on. So I'm like, you never know who you're going to run into. So stuck a couple books in my bag, brought my food donation, and decided to go to Philly. And while I was there, Frankie was there because he does photography for the station. So we wound up meeting, and he invited me to be a guest on his podcast. So fast forward to, I believe it was January when we finally got the same, time available to do his podcast. This seems to be a recurring theme with us. Like our schedules just keep not meshing. But I decided, to take him up on his invitation and be a guest on the My Crazy Exes podcast that he does. And I had a blast. Like I had so much fun. And so when the podcast ended, I was like, that was awesome. When can we do this again? And he's like, you should get your own podcast. I'm like, I want my own podcast. So I think it was a couple weeks later, I decided I'm going to have a podcast and did episode 1. And he's been gracious enough to show me the ropes, how to use this platform to record, how to, do the different effects, how to upload it afterwards, like huge, huge help. So very, very much appreciated. And I was thinking a little bit earlier about all of the things that have happened since I decided to start doing this podcast. The first thing was like trying to figure out what to talk about, and I've gotten such a great bit more respect for radio hosts and podcasters because it's not, you think, oh, you just sit there and you talk all day. It's not easy to come up with things to talk about, especially when you're flying solo, which is another reason why I really wanted Frankie on the podcast tonight, was because going back and forth and having a conversation, it seems to like fill the time a lot faster. And, honestly, it makes it easier because you have somebody else to talk to. But I love talking to you guys too. So this works. So I was thinking back on the past few months and, season 1 of Learned in Go-Go, the podcast, which again is brought to you by Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Go-Go, which you can purchase at learnedingogo.com. And it's available in paperback and ebook. And if you get a personalized copy, you get some freebies. So check that out, learnedingogo.com. I was thinking, being in the throes of trying to market my book and coming up with ways to talk about it, that seemed like a logical focal point for my podcast. Hence, Learned in Go-Go, the podcast, as opposed to the book. So it was supposed to be highlighting things that I talk about in my book and then coming up with subjects surrounding that. It took off in a completely different direction, and I just kind of went with it and enjoyed the ride, because a lot of things in my life have been like that, especially as I get older. During the course of this podcast, I turned 49. That happened in March. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of gotten better at believing in myself, and also believing that the universe is designed for all of us to reach our greater good. So if we kind of just, some people use the phrase let go and let God, or, like believe to achieve. There's all these different catchphrases for it. But what it boils down to is opening yourself up to possibilities and accepting that you might fuck up, and that's okay. So I took the mindset of, I'm either going to kick ass or get my ass kicked, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to see what happens, because we all go around once. So we might as well wring out every last ounce of awesome that our lives have to offer. So if there's something that you are considering doing, as long as it's not serial murder, something like that, but something positive, an experience, a skill you want to learn how to get, again, not like ex murdering, just do it. The worst that'll happen is it doesn't work out, but you can say you tried. So that was how I approached my book. I just sat down and started writing. And I've given this advice to friends of mine who are writing as well. Just write and worry about editing later. Just dump it into the words. And then, in my case, I hired an editor. Thank God. I thought I was a pretty good writer in terms of, grammar and flow and things like that. But she was a humongous help. Shout out to Kim. And then getting the help that you need after you write down your ideas to kind of polish them. So that was how I approached this podcast. Like, I'm going to jump off the cliff and I'm going to learn how to fly on the way down. And I, relied on getting help from Frankie and from getting feedback from everyone listening to it. And I really appreciate all of you who are taking the time to check out these episodes. You guys mean the world to me. Thank you. I recently went back and started listening to them, and it's funny, like, I'm proud of myself for the progress that I've made, because episode 1, I'm going to go back and change the title to The Book Report, because I kind of feel like I sound like I'm reading a book report. I was so nervous, and I recorded that one in my living room. I'm in a separate space now. But episode 1, I recorded at my desk. I stood the whole time. I was so anxious I couldn't even sit down. And I had, I don't even know how many papers tacked up on my shelves in front of me. They were supposed to be notes, but it was completely written out what I was saying, and it's obvious when you listen to it. So I had all these things and I was reading from them, and I'm like, these are so many papers. This has to fill an hour, like just looking at what I wrote. 20 minutes later, my podcast was done. I had read it all, and I was really excited because I did it, but I really knew I had much to learn. And that's another way to approach things is what can I learn? I've taken on the mindset that there is no such thing as failure. You either succeed or you learn, and that, gives you the help for the next time you try. Or if you learn that's not a good fit for you, you know, then there's no next time in that situation, but you have the skills for the next time something comes up like that to say, you know what, that wasn't what I expected it to be. And maybe that's not the right fit for me. So again, like coming from episode 1, I think I've made leaps and bounds in just a couple months. So little pat on my own back there. But I was looking at some of the past episodes and how things evolved. Like from episode 1, I started doing movie reviews, and I called them stripper cinema because I wanted to feature movies that had either scenes in gentlemen's clubs or featured a stripper, like had some sort of reference to it. And my mindset behind that was just trying to get something that you could take with you. Like, okay, I'll go watch this now. And it's kind of a way to take my podcast with you after the fact, while also tying into the book because of, my dancing background. So let me see here. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 movie reviews. And most of the movies were pretty good. So for those of you who have been following along, I had to start with Zombie Strippers because that is like one of my favorite movies. It's so corny and it's like so ridiculous and gory and wonderful. And at some point, I think I'm going to go back and, like revisit that in a stripper cinema because, like I said, it was episode 1, it was the book report. And my husband pointed out to me, he's like, you need to stop giving so many details. Like, you got to just give like a, peripheral review, not every little detail. And again, that's awesome. That helps me. That's great feedback. I can take constructive criticism and I welcome it. So I want a second chance to review one of my favorite movies. We also had, and I'm not sure that these are in the correct order, but I know we did Showgirls. We did Strip Club Massacre. I believe that was the same night as Showgirls because Strip Club Massacre was so terrible. I didn't really have much to say about it. So we did Showgirls in addition to From Dusk Till Dawn. Amazing. Succubus. Go back and listen to that review. That was something. And then Dogma, Deadpool, Dancing at the Blue Iguana, which was like a surprise that I had never heard of that one. True Lies and Fear City, which again, judging by the cast, I'm surprised that I never had heard of that one before. And shout out to my friend for the suggestion on that one. Actually, a few of these have come from listener suggestions. So thank you guys. I love, love, love the participation and that we can go back and forth on social media after I release an episode and talk about it, or I can ask you a question for an upcoming episode and take your advice. Like the interaction is what makes this so much fun. So yeah, 10 movie reviews in season 1, which is awesome. I'm just going to take a little sippy of my drink. Pardon. Okay, I was getting a little tickle there. So also in season 1, I had 3 guests, which is awesome. And I'm really, really hoping for the next season, I want to have more guests. I'm going to get more into my plans for season 2 in a little bit. But in season 1, my first guest, which is really funny because I was teasing her that she popped my cherry, was Artemisia Devine. And she's a former dominatrix sex worker from Australia. She teaches the divinery method, which she helps to unravel your sexual fantasies and get down to the meaning behind it, because it's not black and white. It's not that you want to act out what you're fantasizing about. You have to go back. That was episode 6. So go back and listen to that if you haven't, because she has a lot of great insight. And if you go to her website and subscribe, she has been sending out so many emails recently, and it's like she likes to share some juicy information. So definitely follow her. To completely switch gears, my second guest was Mark Gervais, who is the creator of the Great Media Comic Con. And he was essential in me meeting up with some other people. So to back it up, my friend Leah was the celebrity guest last year, and she introduced me to the Comic-Con where I met Mark and met subsequently a ton of other people. So shout out to Leah, shout out to Mark, shout out to Sheik and Kelly, and I'm blanking, Frank, and everybody. I know I'm missing people. That's the problem with when you don't write things down. When you tell yourself you don't need to write it down because you'll remember, write it down. But anyway, Mark came on to talk about the Comic-Con, and the conversation actually went in several directions. So episode 8 is another great one, because even if you have no interest in Comic-Cons, there's so much more to that episode. And if you do, or if you don't know what a Comic-Con is about, listen to it and then get geared up for next year's Great Media Comic-Con, because I guarantee you they're just going to get better and better and better. It was so much fun. That happened back in like last month. What's today's the 3rd? God, it hasn't even been a month ago. Sometimes it seems like it was yesterday, and other times it seems like it was last year already. But it was 3 days, if you count the Friday night showing of Back to the Future, where they had a DeLorean. Claudia Wells, who plays Jennifer Parker, was there. She was there all weekend, and she is just an angel on earth. She is a sweetheart and so much fun. And also at the Comic-Con was James Stokes, who plays Jason Voorhees, and he was a sweetheart too. And I met so many awesome people. Johnny Necro, thank you to he and his wife for letting me stick my backpack on their windowsill the whole weekend so that nobody would knock it over. Just so many awesome people. Brian Way, Aleem, I can't think of Aleem's last name. I'm sorry, but you should go see him at Comic Universe tomorrow. And Frank Percy and Mark McKenna, and Beefus Von Griefus is my new friend. He was there with Roni selling puppets that were super duper cool. And Delco Batman, and Delco Robin, and Delco Spider-Man, and retired Wonder Woman. If this hasn't piqued your interest yet, then you're not paying attention. You need to go check out the Great Media Comic-Con. Follow it on Facebook. And Joy, I can't think of Joy's last name. She was another amazing artist that was there. I'm trying to picture the tables and how everything was laid out, so I can think of names of people that I met. But yeah, there were so many artists, vendors, celebrities. There were panels. There was the crew from Delco the movie was there, the actors and the writer, director, the cameraman, like so many different people there. And it was just a lot of great people that were there on the customer side as well. Like, to me, that was the best part, was the energy. It was such a positive space. And I just had a really, really fun time. So again, that was episode 8. And I cannot wait till next year. It's going to be so fun. So my third guest was Shelby Yvonne. That was episode 12. And she is a Reiki coach, and she does intimacy coaching and specializes in kink. So that was a really cool conversation. She and I both do pole dancing still for fitness. So we got to talk about that a little bit. And she also has like a freebie that she offered on the show. So go back to episode 12 and sign up at her website too for more information on her coaching and to get your freebie from there too. So I think that's, for a first season podcaster having 3 guests, I think I did pretty good because, again, learning as I go. And that's what's really important, is that you get that mindset that we are all learning and you don't have to be an expert out the gate. So season 2, I'm going to take off, a few weeks in between so I can get a better plan of what I want to do for the next season of Learn and Go Go, the podcast, which will more than likely also be brought to you by Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Go Go. You can pick up your copy at learnedingogo.com. And I'm hopefully going to have more sponsors next season. If you would like to sponsor me, please reach out. My email is Sydnee at learnedingogo.com. So you can just shoot me a message and we can chat, or, follow me on social media and message me on there too. That works. Send smoke signals, little flying airplane, however. But as I mentioned earlier, I want to start incorporating more of my book into the weekly topics, because it's, if you're watching the video, it's a beefy book. There's a lot of information in here. And how many? 313 pages. I have a lot to say. So, it's a lot of funny stories mixed in with the good advice and the lessons. So what I was thinking about in terms of season 1 is I wanted to read to you some excerpts from chapter 3. So chapter 3 is called Don't Let Anyone Put Your Fire Out. And I'm going to take another little sip because my throat is dry. Okay. Don't let anyone put your fire out. The thing about personal joy is that when other people find out about it, they tend to want to poop all over your dreams and try to bring you down. It's imperative that you protect the flame of your passion and not let the people in your life, or even strangers on the internet, shit your fire out. When you are setting and working towards your goals, just remember that it's your dream. And if someone else doesn't share your passion, just bless and release. When you first fall into the initial excitement of following your dreams, it's so easy to feel unstoppable. And the first few days or weeks can be immensely exciting. However, inevitably, people will come out of the woodwork to start picking your passion apart. What if you fail, they may ask. But what if I succeed, you answer. But what if you fail? Let me let you in on a little secret. Anyone who is great at something has failed multiple times before they got it right. It's just the way it works. You need to make sure that when you do fail, you learn and then try again. I mentioned that earlier. Don't give up when the going gets tough. That's a naysayer's wet dream and will result in you being buried under a pile of I told you so. Most of us have already taken this approach to life without even realizing it. For any person who is blessed with the ability to walk, there was a time when we had to learn that skill. We didn't come out walking out of the womb. If when we were babies, we gave up the first time we fell on our butts while taking our first steps, none of us would be walking now. We didn't let literally falling on our asses hold us back when we were little. So why should we let a figurative fall on our asses hold us back now? When people in your life say things to try to hold you back, even if they are coming from a place of love, you need to hold fast to your dreams and keep following your passion. Close your eyes, stick your fingers in your ears, and say, la 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 la, if you must. Put your foot down, put your walls up, and don't let the negative energy in. When you let the fog of negativity permeate your mind, it can choke out all the progress you are making. There are 2 types of poo-pooers. The first are the people who legitimately care about you. They really do believe that the things they are saying and doing to you are for your own good. Their poo-pooing is based on a place of love and comes from worrying about your well-being and having your best interests at heart. These people are so afraid that you will get hurt that they will throw all kinds of things at you to get you to stay where you are instead of blossoming into who you are meant to be. They're not taking into consideration that transformation isn't always easy. Sometimes it can hurt. You need to continue to learn and keep on your path despite the pain. The second type of poo-pooing comes from those who just want to see you fail. Narcissistic people who believe they are better than you can be the most hurtful because they are motivated by wanting to knock the wind out of you. Seeing you fall brings them joy. They're just waiting in the wings to say, I told you so, and laugh every time you are forced to take a step back. I hate those fuckers. So, to catch the rest of chapter 3, you need to buy the book. But we need to take a step back and look at, excuse me, look at the people that are poo-pooing and why, and then see, what our path is and how to handle moving forward despite all of that. Because of course, anytime you start on a new endeavor, you're going to have the people that rally around you. And I am blessed to have a fantastic community that just supports me and lifts me up. And I mean, everybody online as well as in my real life is amazing. I have such a great group of people in my life, and I am so thankful for all of you. And I hope that I'm supporting you the same way. I try to be, everyone's biggest cheerleader and root you on and give advice when I can, and just be there to help you on your way if I'm able, and I appreciate everyone that's done that for me. It's funny because last year when I published my book, I had a lot of really great feedback. And like most people, I did social media ads because that's how you get your product or your face or your whatever in front of new people, is social media ads. So I got my first hater, and it was, I forget what my ad actually said, something about, living your best life or whatever. And it just was a comment that was like, I guess your best life is being a nasty stripper. And I saw it and I jumped up and I went, yes, my first hater. Because if everybody agrees with you, then you're not saying anything worthwhile. That, there's always going to be people that disagree with you if you are being true to yourself, because we're not everybody's cup of tea. And I say that's great because I prefer vodka anyway. So just having that validation that I had my first hater, it made me giddy, and I could have let it hurt my feelings. I could have sat there and gotten depressed because this stranger on the internet didn't like me and knew nothing about me. And that was how they perceived me, because they don't realize that there's so much more to me than the job that I had 16 plus years ago. So I was really proud of myself for taking that angle. And look at the times in your life when people are being negative and trying to hurt your feelings, and see how you can flip it around and make it a positive, make it something that drives you, that makes you have a desire to do better. We all have that in us, and I'm definitely a soft-hearted person. I take things to heart, and I'm learning to put up my protective wall. I have one episode of the podcast that's called Pew Pew Pew, and that's about doing that to the negativity that people throw at us. You just pew pew pew. I'm acting it out if you're not watching the video. Pew pew pew. And it takes time. We've all been programmed to some extent by the situations that we've lived through and the choices that we've made and the people that we've surrounded ourselves with up until this point. But the key factor of that sentence is up until this point, because if things aren't going the way that you want them to, it's time to make a new choice. And I've read somewhere that we are the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with, because they have the most influence on us. So if your circle isn't there to lift you up and support you and have your best interest at heart, it's time to change that 5. And it's time to surround yourself with the people that can give you guidance, that can give you constructive criticism, that can tell you, you know, when you're making choices that aren't going to benefit you. You don't want just to be surrounded by yes people, because that's not going to help you grow. That's just going to help you have an overinflated, like sense of purpose. And, we all are amazing, and we all have gifts, and we all have things to contribute, but we also all have flaws, and we all have things we need to work on. So we need to surround ourselves with the people that love us enough to let us know when we need to change something. And if you're not feeling that, then there's no reason to continue to beat yourself up and keep yourself stagnant because of choices that you made in the past. There's always time to redirect, or like I like to say, pivot, from Friends. I guess I never really watched Friends, but I've seen that in a meme, so I'm guessing that has something to do with a couch. But I just like using the word when things don't go the way that you expected them to, when plan A is not working, so you need to get to plan B. Another thing you can always do is just yell remix, when something doesn't go the way that you expected it to. But again, I'm very grateful that I have a loving, supportive husband. I have 3 great kids, and I have a fantastic community of people surrounding me. And I'm just very blessed and very grateful for all of you. And for the new people that I'm meeting along the way too, thank you. Thank you for jumping on this crazy ride with us and for hanging in there to see how I evolve in this space, because this is fun. I'm having a really good time with this, and I really do have the motivation to share these thoughts because I want to help other people. That was the motivation behind my book, was to not only share what I've learned and how, good or bad, it's helped me to move my life forward, and that there's ways that you can use my experiences to move your own life forward. But I've read a lot of personal development, and some of it is just like snore fest. So that's why I wanted to include the stories from growing up in the church and the stories from working in go-go bars to make it more interesting to learn the lessons, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I wanted to do hopping on the podcast too, is, being able to share stories in the hopes that they either make you entertained or help you with advice, or both, preferably both. But we've all had different journeys, so I don't know where you are in yours unless you tell me, which you can do if you follow me on social media. To get to my socials, I have a link tree in the bio, and I am at Learned in Go-Go on Facebook and on Instagram, to keep it simple. And as I mentioned earlier, my email is sydnee@learnedingogo.com, so you can always reach out to me there. And, let me know how you're doing. Let me know the kind of subjects you want me to tackle in season 2. And like I said before, I'm really hoping to get some guests on, and I'd really love to guest on other podcasts as well. I was on Tales of the Hunted this past year, and Matt and Frank were awesome. It was so much fun. And I have links to it on my social media, but it's if you follow Projangers and Wall Hangers on Facebook, that's them. And it was just a really, really fun experience just talking with them. It was a conversation. I had no idea what we were going to talk about, and it just flowed naturally, and it was so much fun. I would love to be on that again, and I would love to have them on here. And a lot of my new friends that I met at the Comic-Con, I would love to have as guests. And I'm hoping, and if you're listening, you know who I'm talking to to have some of my old coworkers who are still friends of mine on here as well to talk about things. One might be a bartender, one might be a bouncer DJ, a couple dancers. Looking at you guys. Come on. It'll be fun. And who knows? Maybe some of my friends who I met in church too. Just to keep it balanced on both sides of my life, you know? But at any rate, I appreciate all of you so much. And I just want to keep telling you that. Thank you for listening. And I think the best part of season 1 is that I didn't really have a set plan. And I think it worked out pretty good. So seeing how I've learned how to, like I said, use this platform, but also slow down and talk and not rely on papers taped to my shelves and looking forward to watching a movie every week with my husband so that I could talk about it on the podcast, and the fun of the couple movies we watched that were utterly ridiculous but so fun to watch, and sharing all of that with you guys is really, really awesome. I don't know if I'm going to keep the movie reviews. Let me know what you think for season 2 when I come back, if stripper cinema should stay or go. Maybe that'll be my poll question for Spotify for this, but let me know. Like I said, subjects that you want to tackle. What would be great would be if you've read the book to let me know the parts of it that you think would be great to discuss, because I would like to do more live podcasts as well, because I love, love, love the interaction, and that way we can have more of a conversation than just listening to me talk. But I would love for you to do that and to just let me know the things that interest you that might interest me too, and then we can talk about it. But I'm going to wrap this up. And again, if you want a copy of my book, it's at learnedandgogo.com. And speaking of a copy of my book, it is time to give away yet another copy to someone who has taken taken part in, that is, good job, Sid, words, the weekly assignment. So that's another thing. Let me know if you want me to keep doing that, or if we should go in another direction in season 2. But if you're not familiar, every week I was asking an assignment question on my social media, and any person that answered it got an entry for that week into my monthly book giveaway. So this month's big winner of a copy of Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Go-Go is Erica Moore. Woo! Congratulations! Whoop, 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 whoop. So please message me and give me the address to send it and how you would like it personalized. If you want it personalized to you, that's cool. If you want to send it to a friend, that's cool. Just let me know what you would like me to say, or at least who to write it out to, and the address to send it to. And congratulations! I hope you enjoy getting a copy. So, she already read it. But anyway, that's what I said. You can always get a copy for your friend. Mother's Day is coming up. My mom read it. My dad read it too. But anyway, if that's who I should have on here, I should have my dad on. That would be a very interesting conversation. And for the record, I'm not we had a discussion about it after he read my book, and a lot of that was personal between us, but he told me he was proud of me and he loved the book, and that meant the world to me. So I'm not being a smart ass saying I want him on the podcast to talk. I think it would be a fun discussion because he's awesome. My Poppy Seed's an awesome person. So, yeah, I guess it is time to bid you all adieu for season 1. I can't believe that it has been a full season already, but I cannot wait to get back here with you guys for season 2. And until then, remember to always take on your problems head on, because when you hide your head in the sand like an ostrich, you think you're hiding from your problems, but the rest of the world just sees a big ass. Love you guys.